Our weekly Being Your Own CEO Success Circle. It's intended especially for solopreneurs. And this morning, we're going to be looking at rebranding challenges. We'll be right back after this. Well, hi everyone. This is Lowell Ann, your host. Greetings, panel members. Hope everything is great in your part of the world. We are going to begin, as we usually do, by doing some introductions. So I'll kind of get us started by saying that in my coaching and consulting work, I help solopreneurs who want more from their business. And together we discover ways to overcome that feeling of overwhelm and the procrastination that's usually there. And we're doing that while we're bringing that business mastery plan into a joyful reality. So that's my intro. David, how would you like to go next?
Hi, my name is Dave Flannery. I'm with Affordable Websites for Small Businesses and United Country Sauk Valley Realty Team Flannery. So out selling property. It's been a busy week for property this week. Weather here. Vivek will show us our converting thermometer is going to be 70 degrees today. It's the first time in about a week and a half that we've had that get up to that high. We're supposed to be close to 80 degrees this weekend. So,
Ooh.
yes,
Wow.
thunderstorms coming. Now we get the tornadoes. So.
Uh-oh. Yes, Vivek, I did on Friday night. We were all talking, and I shared the picture that you were showing. So that's cool, and I'm so glad to hear that it's been busy in real estate for you. I know that's important.
Yep.
So, and I must at some point this morning share my story with you about trying to upload something that you recommended, and what's it called? LearnDash. And I've got a bit of a story around that, but now is not the right time. so so welcome here, and thank you for being prepared to be a co-host, etc.
Yeah. We've got your. We've got. I monitored the chat and got Ross, who's right next to me on my screen, and
Yeah.
she says, "Looking forward to being here."
Yeah, right on. And she's here.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much for doing that, David. Now let's see, Vivek, how would you like to introduce yourself?
Namaste. My name is Vivekanand.
Namaste.
I am proud to share my belief with Steve Jobs and Leonardo da Vinci, who said simplicity is the ultimate in sophistication. I aim to bring time-tested wisdom and happiness together into your business and life by unifying, simplifying, and amplifying simple technology and tools. Wake Technology Private Limited is my company. Together, let us wake up our potential. So At the moment, I am in England. Reading is the town that I am in. There is a party going on in the neighborhood. So if you hear some screams or whatever, it's not me.
So what's the party all about?
Someone has become 18. So
Oh, okay. Right on. So great to have you here, Vivek.
Thank you. Thank you.
I can see, is that a new printer you've got beside you?
No, it's not new. It used to be behind somewhere, so now
Oh,
it's just
uh-huh. Right on. Well,
closer to the printer computer so that I can easily print. So,
uh-huh.
yeah.
Right on. Well, and is it warm in the UK right now?
Yes, at least inside. No, outside it is quite cold. 16, I think it was.
Oh,
14,
well,
14 degrees.
oh,
Positive, but
yeah. So my partner and I did the beach walk this morning, and it was the sun is out and it's absolutely glorious. Yeah. Oh, it's starting to cloud over now. Wow. Well, if you don't like the weather, wait a minute.
14 is around 59, I think, 59 degrees Fahrenheit,
Yeah.
as per this.
Yeah. Oh dear, we had a great giggle on Friday night when I shared that picture that you that you suggested that I put on my website. So that we had some fun with that. Okay, Roz, how would you like to introduce yourself?
And first unmute.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm Ros Boundy. I'm in South Australia. At the moment, I'm still sort of transitioning what I do from being a face-to-face. Oh, it's Hypnosis Plus other therapies. So it's not an actual formal business name, but it's what I use on my Facebook page and a website. So it's hypnosisplus.com.au. And I'm transitioning to doing more online work and being able to do the hypnotherapy that way, the psychic mediumship readings, and I'm planning on doing online courses. So it's in a stage of development. So that's pretty much where it's at the moment. Redesigning a website and that sort of thing. So I thought, well, gee, your topic for today seems to be very appropriate for my first visit as a guest on your show. So thank you for the invite.
Well, and I think you landed in the right place because we're all in various stages of what you just described. So,
yeah. Oh, and I do sound therapy as well. That's a medicine drum in the background as well too. So why I like that.
I actually forgot to. I actually forgot to mention the time here. It's just 5:05 in the evening. What time is it for you, Ross?
It's 1:38 a.m. here, looking at my clock on the desk.
Is it Wednesday or is it Thursday, Tuesday for you?
No, it's Wednesday morning. So
oh.
I'm in front of you lot.
Tuesday.
And it's actually a very warm still. I think it's roughly around 22 degrees Celsius, which is a bit odd for an autumn evening. But we've just had a bit of weird weather lately. So, that's what weather is, isn't it? Which is whatever it is in, yesterday got up to 35 degrees at Port Pirie, which is getting close to the 100 Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
So it was a bit warm.
Yeah. Well, your seasons are opposite to ours, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're in our autumn, fall if you're US.
Yeah, when we're in spring.
We call it autumn here.
Yeah. Autumn. We call it autumn sometimes too. Right on. Well, I'm so glad. I'm so impressed with the fact that you're willing to stay up so late.
Oh, well, last week I would have been on if I'd have calculated the crossover back into normal standard time compared to dropping the daylight savings time. Instead of taking off the 2 hours, I put it on. So I set my alarm for 3:30 when I should have done it for 1:30.
Oh.
So that was one reason I missed out. Because it would have been a fun chat because I'm trying out Twitch myself. But
Yes.
anyway,
Yeah.
out on that one. Yes.
Well, and I need to share with everybody else. Roz and I have both joined and created a server in Discord. So, and we've been sharing back and forth and playing over there and trying to learn as much as we can about expanding our communities and belonging to each other's communities, etc. So that's kind of how Roz ended up here. So
Yes. And I think even my Discord server, I think I have named that Hypnosis Plus, but I can't remember. It could be Ros Boundy, it could be Hypnosis Plus. I'd have to look it up myself.
Right.
I do a lot of things that I get confused with.
Join the club. So, well, I'm so happy that you're here. So, yeah, it was too bad you didn't make it last time, but you made it this time. So this is good. Right on. Now then, who came next? I think Fred, you were next.
Yes. Good morning. I'm also morning, but not where Ross is. It's just after 9 a.m. here in Langford, which is the sunny part of Victoria, according to Jay anyway. And I'm in Jay's neighborhood at this point in time. Although next month I'll be in Colwood, which is a little bit on the other side of Langford.
Mm-hmm.
I promote youth programs online and face-to-face group sessions where I help young people or promote. They gain skills in communications, leadership, and build self-confidence to become the leaders that our world needs so badly, especially in the changing world they face. My highlight this week was I went to a Toastmasters conference in Langley, which meant I got on the ferry for an hour and 45 minutes, went to Vancouver area, up the Fraser Valley to Langley. And one of the highlights in the conference was a friend of mine won the evaluation contest. There's a couple contests. Evaluation contest, someone gives a speech and then 8 people come in the room one at a time and give an evaluation of that speech, which is a challenge because you have to think on your feet very quickly. You don't have a lot of time to deliberate on what you saw and then present. And the other part of the highlight was him winning, but he had his 2 sons with him. And those are 2 young people that I worked with over a year ago, and I hadn't seen them. And they were watching him, and I had a chance to connect with them again, which was wonderful. The 12-year-old son, his oldest, is in a French speech competition. He's in the provincials as well. So I think a little bit of what we did with him, helping him communicate, has helped him with his speech. And now he'll be in the provincial competition in a few weeks' time. So it's wonderful. It was a highlight for me.
Oh, cool. Right on. Yes, just for everybody else's benefit, I think you can go on YouTube and see where the group that Fred was working with were running their own hangout, and it was really quite neat to watch. Yeah, it was cool. So always happy to have you here, Fred. Right. No, I think the next person who was here was Javita. How are you this morning, Javita? And I know it's not morning where you are, but you need to unmute yourself. No, we're not getting any sound. That happened last week too, didn't it? Well, since we can't hear, I might just say Javita is in Mumbai in India, and she's a Reiki master and a yoga instructor. And she has a couple of websites that she's working on as well. So, does that pretty well cover it? Can you say do this or this? Okay. All right. I'm happy you're here, Javita. Right on. Jay, what's up with you?
Good morning. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes. 5 by
Awesome.
5.
By 5. Awesome. Well, my name is Jay, and I'm just here excited to learn about internet marketing.
Right.
Just getting started in the world of the internet. Excited to learn.
Just for everybody else's benefit, Roz, I don't think you've met Jay before, have you? He is the expert in the group. So, so welcome.
Hi, my name is Jay. My company, Magi Studios, where we help people get started in the world of online marketing through coach, consulting, and training. Happy to be here, hailing from sunny Langford, otherwise known as the West Shore, where we flash our gang symbols. You know, West Shore all the way.
Right on.
And I'm glad to hear that Fred's got my back.
Right, he does. He always says that he's in sunny Langford, just like Jay.
Hey man, our mayor, you know, he kisses babies and he stops shoplifters by tackling them. That's a darn good mayor to have. You know, when a mayor can tackle shoplifters.
Oh wow!
Literally get out of his car, tackle a shoplifter, and make a citizen's arrest. That is the kind of mayor that I want in my city.
He's been mayor for a long time.
You got video,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Okay.
And he's been mayor a long time, hasn't he, Jay? I think he's been for as long as I've lived here. Yeah. Okay, and I'm just checking to make sure I've covered everybody. Okay, I have, I think. So this morning we were going to talk about rebranding challenges, and that came about because of a conversation I'd had with Jay last week where we were thinking about various ways of rebranding, and so I guess maybe a place to begin would be the question, why would you want to rebrand in the first place? And I know that some of us here are in the process of doing the first branding and not doing a rebranding. But anyway, for me, the reason I want to was trying to rebrand my lowland.com was because I use a term that may not be familiar to a lot of people, and who I may be missing out on because I'm not using terminology that everybody would understand. Not everybody would use the term solopreneur, for example. So we talked about the value or the benefit of trying on a couple of different words, etc., etc. So that could be one reason that you would want to rebrand. Another one that I can think of that has happened to me in the past is that as your business rolls along, you may decide that you want sort of to take a slightly different approach or focus on a slightly different demographic, or maybe a complementary niche or something along that line. And so that might mean that you need to do some rebranding. Or maybe your stuff is just outdated and looking very, has been sort of. Especially when we're talking about websites. I mean, the style of website changes over time, and it does make sense to kind of refresh things. So those were my ideas about why you would want to brand. I don't know if anybody else has any other ideas that I haven't covered.
I think with rebranding, obviously there's going to be several personal reasons, but there could also be some, along with those legitimate reasons, there's also could be some business legitimate reasons, and it kind of falls into what we talked about in our conversation, and that could be is kind of missing the mark, where you yourself might know what your brand is about or the name, but it might not be hitting the target market that you're trying to target.
Right.
For example, I have a client that was doing that was trying to brand themselves as I even forget the name. How do you pronounce it? Hugie for health or something?
Yes. Yeah.
Hygge.
Yeah. Isn't it Hygge?
Hygge. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. Legitimate reason why you want to rebrand. So it's spelled Hygge, and it's Hygge for health. Apparently, it's a Scandinavian term meaning simplicity. So gave that a whirl and realized that there was, although it's a great brand to approach, there's a lot of education that needed to be done to get people to understand what that is about. And when you're trying to attract an audience at inception, you need to not really educate them first. You need to make sure that they understand what it means instantly. And in cases like that, sometimes you need to quote unquote dumb it down, make it really simple so that people understand with their existing vocabulary and their existing what they can instantly see and recognize. So we kind of shifted that and changed it to simple health and whatnot, and then within their email funnel, then we can talk about that particular term. So so that's a one particular case study example, and like my business is called Magi Studios, and for the longest time when I first got started, people used to think I was a religious organization because of the word Magi, right? Magi's, the three Magis are the three wise men who were they were called Magis, right? And so people thought I was a religious studio of sorts, right? So I had to kind of re-educate people, but then I stuck with it and I was able to surpass that. But those are all just different reasons why you might want to consider rebranding. And I think the hardest part about rebranding is you put a lot of emotion into creating a brand for yourself. So it's really difficult to let that emotion go and go with something that might make more sense. That's probably the biggest challenge to do that is kind of because you're taking something and that you've created and you're taking it out to pasture, if you will, and you're letting it go. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges when it comes to rebranding. But know that it's always going to be a better thing whenever you try to do that, whenever you try to rebrand. So
well, and of course the important piece is to get other people's objective opinions or other people's objective reaction or whatever. And I mean, when we focus on something and create all this stuff, we do it from our own perspective and our own understanding, and consequently, and of course for me, I was using the word solopreneur because I wanted a one word, and I wanted something that was a little bit different. And sometimes when you go for something that's unique, you end up doing what Jay just said. You miss the mark because it doesn't make any sense to your target viewer. So yeah. So the importance of trying to get feedback from the objective viewer is really critical, and certainly from a coach or whatever. Yeah. So David?
Ross wanted to say something.
Yeah, go ahead, Roz.
Yeah, I was trying to unmute and I almost hit stop video. Sometimes the trigger fingers get a bit loose. As you were talking about the solopreneur as far as a unique term, I mean, in the type of industry with the healers and the Reiki and things like that, there's been times that I've seen myself where people have used different terms to try to stand out, because it gets to a point where you sort of think there's so many of us, we've got to do that unique thing. And I always had trouble with it's not so much pronouncing it or anything, but with entrepreneur, as far as how do you pronounce it, it's a hard one to say. I don't want to use it, it's just too fancy, you know, all of those reasons around not wanting to use it. And really, what is the definition of an entrepreneur anyway? So, you know, it was that sort of thing. And it came to mind because, like Jay had said, as far as using a term that's not really easily recognized, one of the therapies that I do is called Horstman technique. And anytime you try to explain that to someone, and it's spelled Horstmann, it's a person's surname, it was her maiden name. But people would think you were treating horses. And it was so hard to, because of the way that it rolls off the tongue poorly. It's not easy to explain it even as a technique, because it's an energy system that's connecting to the body, and it's easier in the doing than the actual explaining. And how do you put that on paper? It's that type of thing. So yeah, that's sort of what I wanted to say about unique terms and the rest. You really do have to sort of pinpoint it down to what people recognize as part of their own language.
Well, and I ran into that in the early days with coaching. I mean, there was a time there. I mean, there still are people, and even when you go online and do coaching, a search for coaching, all kinds of sports stuff comes up. And so, I mean, there was a long time that people had no idea what coaching was. Well, then they got all mixed up and thought it was a branch of therapy, which it is not. And, you know, so as time goes on, I think more people now understand what coaching is, and so forth. And another term that I struggle with is consulting. I mean, I understand the difference between coaching and consulting, but I wonder how many of you would understand, would be able to say, what is the difference? So, I mean, we've got all these terms that are important to us, and there are distinctions, and they are important distinctions, but the average person out there that you're trying to target, what terminology do you use to help them, you know, find you? Yeah.
I've noticed in the coaching / consulting industry is that there's a lot of coaches that call themselves, oh, I'm a coach, consultant, facilitator, and they kind of, it's like hyphenating their last name, where they try to mash it all into one little piece so that they can accommodate what everyone, you know, perceives as to what, you know, that sector is, and so on and so forth. So, you know, it's pretty funny because, you know, whenever we go to networking events, well, I'm a coach, consultant, life coach, facilitator, business coach, and I cook food. You know?
I know.
It's like, wow, you get that on a business card.
But when you're in those fields, there is a huge difference between all of those.
Yes.
And there's an association and you know, ways of becoming certified in all of those areas. And so for the person who's using those terms, it means a lot, but it doesn't mean anything to anybody else. Yeah. So what about, I mean, so missing the mark and not using the right terms, etc. Are there any other reasons why we might want to rebrand?
I have a question that this reminds me of something. When I was in Australia, in Melbourne earlier this year, I attended a workshop run by Sam Cawthorn, who runs an organization called Speakers Institute. And one thing he was telling everyone in that session that he ran was, you should register your name. You know, and Lowell Ann, you have your name registered and you have it. I've heard the opposite. Depends, obviously, you hear different opinions. People said your name should be something that when people see it, I mean your brand, not your name, but your brand should say, they look at it and say, okay, I get that. I know what it's about immediately. I use Our Future Leaders
Mm-hmm.
which hopefully does reflect what I'm promoting. But he was saying I should register Fred Jones. And I believe the reason was that the way the world's changing so much that we're going to be our own brand. So I just wanted to throw that out there and see what thoughts there are in that regard, Jay and so on, saying, how important is it to register your own name? He said it many times during the day. This is becoming more and more important to register your own name because you will become your own brand. So there's a question. What do you think of that suggestion?
Which way? Right. I've got some ideas on it too. But Jay, what's your reaction to Fred's question?
Well, I think personal branding is obviously important, right? Because, and it really boils down to what the potential contingency plan is going to be with your business. So, for example, let's say you brand yourself ABC Consulting, right? And then, so then that becomes a sellable asset. Meaning, if you decide to sell your business, it's a lot easier.
Of course.
But then, let's say you brand your right? So Fred Inc. Consulting or something like that, right? And so then it's obviously harder to sell that business, but it creates potential growth because it's more human, it's more more personal. And I think when it comes to consulting and helping other humans in your business, especially on a one-on-one basis or a networking basis, I think it's important to have a face in front of that brand. Like if you were like a service-based industry, like a plumber or something like that, or house cleaning, then I think a brand with a logo and stuff like that is ideal. So it really obviously depends on the actual, type of business that you're running. So I think if it deals directly with humans in terms of helping them, I think the personal brand is more important. Now you can hybrid the both and have you as the visual part of the brand, like Happy Hat Consulting or something like that, something where that's your because you're always wearing cool looking hats, and then have yourself as part of that brand, putting yourself in front of there. So
here comes another one. Cool.
See that now he's like an 80s break dancer with a kangaroo.
Well, and
so those are my thoughts.
But Jay, I'm from. Say again.
I'm just asking, is that a kangaroo on the hat? Thought so. Would have been pretty poor if I didn't recognize it, that's all.
Oh, right. Right. Well, but the other thing is, I think we need to recognize that the trends kind of change. So when I was starting my business back in the late 90s, my business name is still Workstyle-Lifestyle Consulting. And that was, that is what I was doing at the time. So Workstyle was all of the employment and all of that, and lifestyle was about personal one-on-one coaching. And that was a logical, really good name at the time. But then it's so long and convoluted, and the trend changed, and then it was suggested that it would be a good idea to just brand myself for the very reason that Jay was talking about. So a lot of this is the trends change as well. So what did I do? I took loweland.com and split it into two. So I've got two websites. One is loweland.com and the other is beingyourownCEO.com.
This is where your goal setting comes in.
Yeah.
And that you know what you want to do in 5-10 years. Do you want to sell your website, or do you want to do this for the rest of your life? And this is what your love is. And so I'm not going to ever get rid of it. So it's okay to brand myself, because that's what I'm going to be doing. I know things change over time, but
Yeah.
It's like the website I've got right now for air fryers. I think my goal in 5 years would be to sell that to someone, and so I didn't want to brand. I don't want to brand it too much with my name. I want to brand it with a name that can be used.
Well, and so with having that goal, being really clear on that long range goal, that helps you kind of determine what your best bet is. But I think also your client group, your target client group, is really important to be focused on them, and to understand where, what they relate to as well. Yeah. So I think we've talked about why we would want to rebrand. So what do you think the major challenges are around? And Jay's already identified one of them. You've got a kind of an emotional connection to stuff that you've done, and it's your own creativity, a lot of it. And to sort of try to let go of that, and it really is focusing on the target client, isn't it? I mean, that's the important piece, is what is it that they need, what is it they want, and what is it they relate to, and what is it they understand. Yeah. So all of you, what do you, and everybody's in a sort of a different stage of branding. What do you see as the challenges?
I would see a challenge of being not to alienate your present clientele that's used to your brand, unless that's what your goal is. You would have to be careful that you don't discourage them, because, like we were stating last week, if you move from Facebook to Twitch, people fight that, and don't want the people that love Facebook are not going to want to move to Twitch. So you're going to lose some of your audience. So you need to be careful when you rebrand that you don't do that.
Yeah, I've had a slightly different reason for doing the rebranding. It comes back a bit to what Jay said. It was more for personal reasons, because I've had the hiatus time of looking after Mum until her passing, and now, virtually it feels like I'm starting back again, and I've really needed to move on from using my name as part of that business. So I'm letting the Betts Holistic Therapy name drop, taking it to fully changing over to Hypnosis Plus as being what I'm working with, but also doing the Ros Bounty, because it is almost like it's, there's a work-based one that is more business oriented that I want to wind down at some point, because I ain't getting younger, and working on the personal identity side of it in doing the psychic mediumship, that could be something that moves me from a more work oriented at the table into something that will be more suited to the online, which is, and it's changing old thinking around how to do that type of marketing branding thing, and not really knowing how, to actually getting out there and having help to do that. And that's not always easy, because like you said, letting the old baby go to grab something new, when can a dog, an old dog learn new tricks type of thing. It really is quite a big shift at times.
Shifting away from the whole face-to-face thing, and the in-person face-to-face thing, to online. There are lots of things that apply in both places, but there are differences, and being able to figure out how to make that work. Yeah.
And part of that is, sort of the education side of it, but I really like doing the lives. I like being as part of this sort of a group. I like doing my own. I'm discovering it, I've got all these ideas to try and, to get some other ideas working as far as live streaming goes in different ways. That's not just a talk show type thing. Some of it might be educational, some of it might just be for outright fun, and it's still sort of to work that into still being part of the Hypnosis Plus, because that's the plus that I want to develop. So it's it's good fun, but you still need guidance along the line to actually create something that's meaningful to attracting who you want to have as your client. Yeah,
it's
true.
Not easy. So I just need to make sure that Vivek, what about you? What do you? I mean, you're pretty clear on what your brand is. Would you? I mean, along the way, how did that come about? And would you, or have you thought about personalizing your brand?
My brand, which is Wake, comes from my name. People, how people are likely to pronounce my name. We wake. So someone did ask me if my brand is too tied to my own name. I said it is and it is not.
Right.
So it's a, when I say we wake up your potential, I'm doing two things there. I'm reminding you of my name, Vivek, and I'm also telling you what I'm likely to do, wake up your potential. So
you've obviously thought that the metaphor and all of that, you've obviously thought that through very carefully. And I've noticed that it has evolved over time.
It has. Yes.
Yeah.
So at the moment, I don't see any need for rebranding, but I probably would need to taking on, like what Jay was saying. When people go to my website, do they know what I do? At the moment, probably not.
And so there's the rub.
Yes.
and I mean, that's part of the reason that we have these little elevator speeches and so forth, so that we can explain what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and David, I know that you're what was it? It might have been Friday night. You showed some ideas that you had for sort of initially branding your business and toward that goal that you had. So, and that was a very visual thing, wasn't it? So, I mean, the part of the branding is, it's not only, who you want to work with and all of that, but it's the visual things, your business card and your logo and all of those pieces come into play as well.
Yeah. We were discussing just today or yesterday, rebranding our business card, because we found one that seemed to work really well, and it was real friendly and inviting. So we're talking about rebranding our business card to say hello, welcome to the real estate world, or something along those lines. We haven't finished it, but the visuals are very important because it
Mm-hmm.
makes it easy for people to remember you by.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're looking at doing that, and that will probably, if we're successful with that, we'll probably go to the website and can use the same philosophy. So
One thing I observed was when I go on the motorway here, I see those roadworks going on, and there I see these diggers. They have the name Flannery on them. The moment I see them, I remember you.
So I have a
It
brand of
is to
diggers
do.
in England, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, because my the the immigrants my forefathers that came across the ocean were called O'Flannery when they
Oh.
originally came over. So yeah, we have ties back to Ireland and over there and to England. So um, that's that's interesting. You have to send me a picture sometime.
Yeah.
My ancestors were the same. It was O'Neill, but then they realized that they were just too drunk all the time, and they just decided it was too hard to put the O in. And just did Neil.
O'Neill.
Well, mine was because they wanted to hide the Irish, which
Oh.
doesn't make sense because Flannery is definitely Irish.
Now,
Well, I know. Like, if you ever try writing drunk, you have to do an O, release the pen, apostrophe. You know, so it's just way easier just doing Neil.
Can't put that space in there. It's all one word.
okay, now we're going to I'm going to do something that's an experiment. I'm going to see if I can do and share some comments. And for those of you who are in the green room, you can't see this, but within the video that will happen, they will be able to see it. So I see that Paul Murray is out there. Hi, Paul. Long time no see. It's great that you came. And Paul did say, brand why you do it, not what you do. I.e. for more buyers. And then he also says the challenge with rebranding is often your business name is a legal identity, so changing your brand has to be done with taglines and visual logos, etc. And yes, it's really kind of how that all happened in my business. It was, my business name is Workstyle Lifestyle Consulting, and that worked at a time, but it's still the name of my business, and so I've had to sort of move away from that because it was awkward. So yeah. So what about that? Why branding, using that concept of why you're doing something rather than what you do? That's kind of interesting. So
that is the philosophy which I have tried to use. Why I do what I do is I want to make things simple for people.
Right.
Bring technology together and make it simple. So that's why I do. But problem with that is it's difficult for people to visualize what you do. That's the problem that I am struggling with now.
Well, and I could say the same thing. I mean, I explain all of that in my little intro that I use about overcoming. I want to help people become successful and overcome their overwhelm and their procrastination so they can move forward. That's the why, but that still doesn't tell anybody how or what.
How I think how should be your intellectual property, as in how to get that expertise, someone has to pay you. That's what it is. How you do what you do. But what you do has to be clear to them, and why you do also has to be clear to them. Then the how part is up to you. It's your expertise. Your people pay for the how.
Yeah.
Does it go back to actually, identifying what the problem is that people have first? I mean, that's why you're doing it. You're trying to solve a problem. So for the fact that I've called mine Hypnosis Plus, not that I've registered a business name under that, it's just a title I'm using for Facebook at the moment. Whether it's available as a business name, I haven't searched. It's not bothering me because I'm not structuring it as a long-term business, and that could be an oxymoron. But it's still. I mean, I've chosen it because that is what I am doing. The solution is hypnosis to solve the problem of, and most people seem to recognise that it is quit smoking and weight loss as being the major things that hypnosis is used for, or stage presentation, which I don't do. Is that the first part of what was the question again, Lyle Ann? It was the why that was raised, wasn't it? So, I mean, it does go back to what is the problem, doesn't it?
Why is the question which Steve Jobs used for his while he was alive. Apple is what it is today. Apple is how popular it is today because Steve Jobs started with why. He said, he didn't say he's a product company. He started saying, I want to make things simple for you. I want to status quo. He was against status quo. He wanted to get rid of the status quo and so on and so forth. He started with the why. So if you look at the Apple products, they're all start with the why.
So one of the challenges, getting back to what I asked, was what do we see as the challenges in terms of our branding the first time or rebranding? So one of those challenges, I would just turn that around and say, the challenge is to really know and have the clarity on what the why is. Yeah. But also the who, for sure. So any other challenges that come to mind for the group?
I would imagine the visual component of the brand. So, for example, if you're doing a personal brand where you're branding you, what visual element do you use? Do you use a picture of you? Do you have a graphic made of you? So those are all personal challenges. Along with colors. I mean, some people find that there's certain colors that you gravitate to, and there's some colors that work within a brand, and some colors that may not work within a brand based on what the niche is about. So for example, if I were to, let's say I was a love consultant and all of my branding was black and gray,
No.
so it just wouldn't tie in together. Right? So yeah. So
and Jay, you would be proud of me. I did the research to find out what meaning people put on purple, and it all fits together.
Yeah. There's a huge component to the psychology of color within branding.
Yeah,
absolutely, and it's well worth an investigation. A read at the very least. If you were to just simply Google psychology of color in branding, that's you could see how a lot of big corporations and companies do invest a lot of time into the psychology of branding and the psychology of marketing, and that's probably one of my favorite topics to read and research about, is the psychology of branding and stuff like that. So Because I mean, as Rosalind would probably know, being a hypnotist, there's a lot of subconscious elements to visual stimulations, that can be, I wouldn't say manipulated, but could be persuaded. Like these aren't the droids you're looking for kind of scenario. So where you can suggest, what you're trying to do within the colors of your brand and stuff like that. So, by the way, Rosalind, I used to do stage hypnosis many, many moons ago to pay my way through college.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I'd like to be game enough to try it, but no.
No, because you'd be too analytical, right? You'd analyze the actual, the process, so it wouldn't work.
I couldn't really suggest to someone that they do some of the stupid stuff that they do. Like it's just, I couldn't put people through
my
that.
show was clean, so it wasn't anything naughty.
Well, and again, when you're choosing a logo, now you can see my logo up there. When I was branded as Work Style Lifestyle Consulting, that worked because the 4 circles in the center, mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual, and then the 2 circles on the outside, work style and lifestyle. And when my business was called that, people would look at that and go, "Oh, I get it." So, and of course, I've had that logo since I started back in the 90s. So, I mean, even a logo, it's got to be carefully chosen, and the use of metaphor is really what the a logo is. The visuals, it's kind of a visual metaphor, isn't it? So
Absolutely,
yeah.
It's huge. Like the McDonald's logo represents the yellow, represents all the cholesterol that you ingest when you go to that restaurant.
Right.
And the red is for the red line. When you die.
all the corpuscles that are slowing down.
Right. Oh dear. So yes, so there's a lot goes into the branding process. It's not just do it. To my mind, and I remember when I was choosing that logo and the name and so forth, it took me days and days with lots of input from all kinds of other people at the time. So, isn't that bizarre?
That's where I found with doing my redesigning, or like changing up to the rebranding factor, getting help. How do you decide what is the best help, especially for designing your logo and your colors and things like that?
Mm-hmm.
I just went with my gut feeling and intuition, because that's what I do. And I have chosen Molly to suggest what would be the right colors and stuff. And I really like what she's come up with. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's not something we see clearly, being so close to what we're doing, that it does take an outside vision of what's possible.
Yep.
And I found that quite helpful, to be able to let that go and see the idea and think, wow, I actually like that, so I'm going with it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But in terms of colors and stuff, it's got to be something that you personally relate to. You have to love it. I don't think. There are certain muddy colors that I just couldn't go there. Just absolutely couldn't go there. But I'm very conscious of my color reaction. Very conscious of it. And that comes from my sewing and my quilting and a whole lot of other things as well. Yeah. So, Any other challenges? Yeah, the visuals, trying to figure out what's going to work, both for ourselves and for the viewer and so forth. Anything else that comes to mind for people? I can't emphasize enough the importance of getting feedback from other people and I guess some experimentation. I mean, receiving some feedback from Jay on some things on my site. My reaction is, oh great, I'm going to give it a try. So we'll try that and see what kind of a reaction or what kind of result I get. So always being ready to kind of adjust and change and try different things until you find what works and feels right.
My main problem is finding people that will give me proper feedback. I have lots of friends and family that I'll show them stuff and they'll say, it looks great, looks great, looks great. And then I'll show it to someone else and they say, well, you need to do this and you need to change this. You shouldn't use gradient or the colors aren't right and stuff like this. And it can be frustrating when you get someone, if you don't find the right people that will give you the honest evaluation. Because, and I know what the other people are trying to do. They're trying not to hurt your feelings.
And to give you encouragement.
I mean, it's not that they're being mean to you or something like that. They just don't, or they don't care. One or the other. I have a few family members that really don't care.
Right.
But it's important to find people that you can trust to give you an honest opinion, because you really want to make sure that your logo and style is appropriate.
Well, and that's why
the words that you're using as well.
Well, and that's why a group like this and or Wealthy Affiliate that some of us belong to, the connections that we've made with various people, that's what we all do for each other.
I think one point I remembered with respect to logo is how well does it look when it is compressed into a smaller size or expanded into, in different sizes. Is it still recognizable as your logo, or parts of it are lost and it's no longer recognizable in a certain size? So that's one of the aspects I had to think of.
Does it look great on a business card? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I certainly, that was important to me as well. So I'm looking at the time. We're just 3 minutes past the top of the hour. So I want to thank everyone for their input and for our discussion. Fred, do you want the last word this morning?
I would love to have that, as always. Thanks, Joanne. Well, I'll just mention what I got out of it. It hit a couple bells. One was, what is the problem? Like Ross said, what is the problem you're trying to solve? Because if you're not solving people's problems, you'll never be successful. Whatever that problem is, that was one thing. So now that once you found that, then how do you explain to people? And both Paul and Vivek mentioned why. And that reminds me about Simon Sinek's presentation on the power, start with why. Because that's why Apple's and other companies he mentions in his presentations are so successful. Start with why. And so that also resonated with. And then again, it comes down to, or once you've got that, how do you market it? And that's not so easy, because as David said, how do you get good feedback? Because people don't want to hurt your feelings, for example. That's why I mentioned it brought back, we have evaluation contests in Toastmasters.
Yeah.
how do you give decent feedback where you're making suggestions for improvement in a way that it's in a positive way that people accept that?
Yeah.
That's one of the things we practice is, and I call it the secret sauce of Toastmasters, is our evaluations. That's where you learn to improve because people are trying to assist you. So I'm sure Jay would mention, well, one way is like A/B testing. And there's a lot of things you could talk about that, like Tim Ferriss, how he got the title of his book. He tried all different titles until he found one, The 4-Hour Work Week, which is the one compared to what he originally had. The title of his book was probably, it would have been a disaster. So a lot of elements. It was a very interesting conversation, an interesting discussion that rang a lot of bells along the way. So thanks for this once again.
So let's all remind each other that that's what we're all here for, is to give each other that constructive feedback. So thank you, Fred. So given that, I think it's time for me to remind everyone it's important to do what you love with passion. So we'll see you next week.